Thanks for joining us tonight at 5:30.
And we, of course, have to get you caught up on all the big developments coming out of the first day of the Delphi murders trial. Anne-Marie joins us live from Delphi tonight, and she's been setting the scene, giving us more context to how the community is responding. Anne-Marie?
Well, good evening, Felicia. You know, WTHR is so fortunate that for 6 out of the first 8 days, we were able in the draw to have a member of one of our journalists in the courtroom for a firsthand account of what the developments are. We were in there today for the opening statement and the very first testimony. Bob Siegel was in the courtroom this morning, switched out this afternoon with Emily Longnecker. Testimony has now wrapped for the day. Yes. What would you say are the key moments?
Well, the key moments really came during opening arguments when both the prosecutor and the state shared with the jury. They kind of outlined what the jury is going to hear, and they made it very clear that the jury is going to hear some really tough evidence and testimony, and some of the really emotional testimony that we heard from today. It got started right off the bat with Becky Patty, Libby German's grandmother, who just explained just the agonizing hours of that first day when the girls were not where they were supposed to be after visiting the Monon High bridge, and then just that next agonizing day when the girls' bodies were actually found. I will mention, I was able to sit in the courtroom in the first row just a few feet behind Richard Allen. So I thought I would just mention some of the things that we noticed about the defendant today. You know, he came in, he's not wearing the prison jumpsuit that we've seen him in for most of the last 2 years since he's been arrested. He's wearing khakis and a purple shirt, a tightly shaved haircut. Right before the judge and the jury walked in, he bowed his head, he put his hands together, and he prayed. That was the first thing we noticed. He took notes throughout the entire testimony today. And right now he's on his way back to the Cass County Jail. The families, it was a hard day for them. They've been waiting for this day for a very long time. But, for them, there were tears shed by the families listening to that emotional testimony. Richard Allen, at one point, he shed some tears as there was discussion just about his time that he's been spending in prison and what this has done to his 30-year marriage. So, again, very emotional. We are very pleased to be able to be in the courtroom to bring all of this information to you. And we will be there tomorrow. We will be there on Monday and most of next week as well.
All right. It really struck me when they were talking about the condition of the girls and to prepare the jurors to be prepared to hear some of those gruesome details. Yeah. It's what nobody wants to listen to, for sure.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yes. All right. Well, our live coverage will continue coming up at 6 o'clock in the late. As for now, this is the latest from Carroll County and Delphi on a very emotional and important day of testimony in this Delphi murders trial. Back to you.
All right, that was Anne-Marie Tiernan and Bob Siegel reporting live there. Our team coverage continues this evening. Our legal expert, Katie Jackson-Lindsay, has been following today's developments in the Delphi murders trial as well. And Katie, let's dive right in here. What was the biggest revelation of today?
Well, I think the biggest revelation was learning for certain the cause of death. We have speculated, we've learned some things through the pleadings that have been filed, but knowing that for certain was a big thing. And then along with that, hearing from the defense that there may be evidence that the bodies were moved at some point. I think that's really big evidence or a preview of really big evidence that we might hear during the trial.
So the prosecution's first witness today was Libby's grandma, Becky Patty, who testified for about an hour about the girls going to the bridge and then learning the girls were not alive. Why did the prosecutor choose a family member to start their opening statement today?
Well, first, there's this technical legal issue that people don't really think about, that the prosecution has the burden of proving that these victims were at some point alive. And so that seems really silly, but that is a part of the elements that they have to prove. And so it's really common to call a next of kin witness to do that. There's also the added benefit of humanizing the victims at that point, giving them a personality, giving them more than just a face, and the things that the jury will hear about their murder during the trial. And then finally, Becky Patty sort of serves two roles. She is that next of kin witness that can prove that there was life, but she's also a fact witness because because she actually had contact with the girls on that day and can sort of add to the timeline that the state's going to be presenting.
And the defense team has already said that there is reasonable doubt and the state's investigation has just been messed up from the beginning. How do you think that's going to play a role?
Well, I think what we saw was defense counsel really taking advantage of one of the jury instructions. And that instruction is that reasonable doubt can arise from the evidence or lack of evidence. And he really leaned into that and used his opening statement as an opportunity to give the jury a preview of those challenges and a roadmap of the challenges to look for. And so I thought that he did a good job just out the gate, really honing in on that.
Richard Allen's defense attorney also attacked the cell phone evidence in the state's case. Why is that key to their case?
Well, we've always known that the cell phone evidence was key in terms of what was found on the cell phone, the down the hill audio, as it's been called. But we now know not just what's on the cell phone, but the cell phone data in terms of the ping data and connecting to towers is going to come into play as it relates to the timeline of when that phone may have moved, when it was connecting to towers, and what towers it was connecting to. And that's going to be really important in terms of timeline.
Okay, well, we are out of time with Katie Jackson Lindsay this evening, but there's so much more that we're already learning today with the first day, but to be able to see more evidence and hear from the prosecution as well as the defense, time will tell how this all unfolds.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
Well, Katie's going to stick around. She's going to help break down more of today's developments during our Delphi debrief. We have only scratched the surface here today.
That's right. You can watch that show tonight at 10 o'clock over on WTHR+. It's a free download. You can download it on Apple TV, Amazon Fire Stick, and Roku.